Good morning. Good morning. This week I'm still talking about the portraits of the past, the genealogy of the Old Testament patriarchs, and this week I'm going to talk about Jacob. Jacob has an interesting story, and I'm going to start right off talking about something that I'm doing in my home right now. I was wondering if anybody else out there is decluttering things that they no longer need. I have a lot of things in my home, and I know I didn't acquire them overnight. So I am not trying to declutter them overnight. I'm not trying to do something. I do something that I did practically my whole life. So what I'm doing is I'm decluttering slowly, and I'm carefully going through the things that I no longer need to give away. So now people always ask me, is there anything that you give away that you regretted giving away, that you wanted to keep? And I can say, yeah, there's a couple of things that I have given away that I wanted to keep, but those are things that can easily be replaced, that I can easily go to the store and buy it if I need it. So saying that, is there anything that you have ever given away that you regret giving away? And in this story today, Esau regretted giving away something very, very important to him. And in fact, he was tricked out of the other thing by his brother. And I just want to dive right into this story. This story speaks to us so effectively about things that are really important and things that we can let go. There are some things that we can let go, but there are some things that are so important that we need to hold on to them with everything that we have. So just diving right into Genesis 25 today, I'm reading about Jacob and how Isaac had two sons. And this is Jacob's story. Abraham became the father of Isaac, and Isaac was 40 years old when he married Rebekah, the daughter of Bethuel. And Isaac prayed to the Lord on behalf of his wife because they were childless. And once again, we see this in the Bible a lot. We see how the devil preys on the woman's womb so that she cannot bring forth the heir. So the Lord answered his prayer, and his wife Rebekah became pregnant, and the babies jostled each other within her, and she said, "Why is this happening to me?" And there are so many times that we say that to ourselves. Why is that happening to me? Why is that happening to me? But Rebekah didn't let that get her down. She went to the Lord to find out why. And this is what the Lord said to her. 2 nations are in your womb. 2 nations are in your womb. So the representatives of 2 nations you are carrying in your womb. And no pressure, right? And 2 people from within you will be separated. 1 people will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger. So Rebekah had this prophecy before she even had her babies. So she knew what was going to happen. So verse 24 says, when the time came for her to give birth, there were 2 boys in her womb, and the first one came out red, with his whole body hairy, and they named him Esau. And after that, his brother Jacob came out, and he was grasping onto Esau's heel. So they named him Jacob. So Esau may mean hairy, but Jacob means he grasps the heel, and it's a Hebrew idiom for he deceives. He deceives. So we are going to see how Jacob becomes a deceiver. And this is what happens when we take things out of the hands of God and we try to do what God has planned in our own time and in our own way. So Rebekah now would have been much younger than Isaac. Isaac was 60 years old when Rebekah gave birth. And the boys grew up, and Esau became a skillful hunter, a man of the open country, while Jacob was content to stay at home among the tents. Now, this may start to sound like Cain and Abel. If you recall our story about Cain and Abel, if you want to go back, you can watch that again. That's on here under Portraits of the Past. And here's where the trouble comes in. Isaac, who had a taste for wild game, loved Esau because he was a hunter, but Rebekah loved Jacob because he hung around the tents. So now this is where the problem lies, that this is a favoritism now in the family, a competition now. And this is going to change the dynamics of the family. So now one day Jacob was cooking some stew, and Esau came in from the open country famished, and he said to Jacob, "Quick, let me have some of that stew." And Jacob says, "First, sell me your birthright." Now there's two privileges that the firstborn had in Old Testament times, and they were the privilege of the birthright and the blessing. Now the birthright came about because somebody had to be in charge of the family after the father dies. That would be the person who would inherit the birthright. It was the firstborn son. He would inherit the birthright and a double portion of the father's inheritance in order to take care of the family. The other part of the privilege of the firstborn was the blessing that would be passed down to that firstborn and then further down to that firstborn's children. And we'll talk more about that blessing in a moment. But Esau foolishly says, "Look, I am about to die. What good is the birthright to me?" And Jacob says, "Swear to me first." And he swore an oath to him, selling his birthright to Jacob. So now Jacob has the birthright, even though he is the second-born son. So then Jacob gave Esau some bread and some lentil stew, and he ate and he drank, and he got up and left. So now the deed was done. When Esau was 40 years old, he got married, and the Bible tells us they were a grief to Isaac and Rebekah. Now Esau's choices affected the entire family because he married these pagan women, and he also participated in polygamy, which was not ordained by God, but it was a custom among the pagans at the time, and Esau adopted this custom. So when Isaac was old and could no longer see, he called for Esau and told him, "My son, go out into the open country and kill me some game and make me something tasty to eat." And so Rebekah heard this, and she also heard Isaac say to Esau, "And I will give you the blessing." So Rebekah feels that she has to take matters into her own hands, and this is what she does. She goes to Jacob, her favorite son, and she says, "Your father is about to give the blessing to Esau, and this is what I want you to do. Now listen carefully, my son. Go out and get 2 young goats. Bring them to me. I will prepare them the way your father likes it. I want you to put some of Esau's clothes on. I want you to put some goat skin on your hands, and I want you to take this food and go to your father and pretend that you are Esau and receive the blessing." And that is exactly what he does. He goes in to Isaac, and Isaac questions him repeatedly. "Who are you, my son?" "I am Esau, your son." Is it you? Is it you?" And he says, "Yes, it is. I am." And of course, he goes over to his father, and his father touches him, and he feels the goat skin on his hands. And then he goes over and lets his father smell him, and he smells the outdoors on his clothes. And finally, Jacob decides that it is indeed Esau, because he cannot see. This is the only way he can test whether or not he is Esau. And then he gives him the blessing. And this is the blessing that he gives him. He says to him, May God give you heaven's dew and earth's richness, and abundance of grain and new wine. May nations serve you, and peoples bow down to you, and be lord over your brothers and the sons of your mother. And may the sons of your mother bow down to you, and may those who curse you be cursed, and those who bless you be blessed. And of course, Jacob gets up and leaves with the blessing. Now, in the meantime, Esau had come home. Esau had prepared his meal and was about to go in there to his father. And Jacob had just left. And Esau goes in and says, "Here's your meal, father." And Isaac says, "Who is it?" And he says, "It's me, Esau, your son. Please bless me." And he said, "Your brother has already come here and taken your blessing from you." And so he does get a blessing. Esau does get a blessing, but he doesn't get the blessing that Jacob got. He gets the blessing that says that he will have to fight all of his days, and that he will bow down to his brother. And so it says, you will live by the sword and you will serve your brother. So Esau is so upset about this. Esau plans to kill Jacob. And then Rebekah hears about it. So Rebekah decides to go to Isaac and plan to send Jacob back to her family, to Laban, her brother, where he can find a wife for himself, because she doesn't want him to marry among the pagans in the land. So this is exactly what she does. She sends Jacob to her brother. And as Isaac instructs Jacob and says, do not marry a Canaanite woman. Go to Bethuel, your grandfather, and take a wife there among the daughters of Laban, your mother's brother. And so this is what Jacob does. Jacob, Rebekah's favorite son, must leave her and never sees her again, because she dies as he is away, trying to stay away from Esau, who wants to kill him. Rebekah must leave her favorite son go. So she must let him go out into the world to make his way, as Esau stays behind with his pagan wives. And we can see that this points to Jesus. How does this point to Jesus? People always say about the Old Testament, why are these stories important? Well, these take place so long ago, and what do they have to do with Jesus? This is showing us that Jesus is the firstborn. Jesus is the firstborn Son of God, the only Son of God, and he has the privileges of the firstborn. He has the blessing, and he is able to pass that blessing on to us because we are joint heirs with him. It says in the book of Revelation in chapter 1, verses 4, it says, Christ, who is the faithful witness, the firstborn from the dead, and the ruler of the kings of the earth. So what is our inheritance? Our inheritance is our resurrection. When we die, we are going to eventually receive a glorified body, and we are going to be resurrected with him. This is what the Bible tells us. So if we are joint heirs with him, and God is our heavenly Father, we are participants in this resurrection, this privilege of the firstborn Son of God. I want you to have a wonderful, wonderful day and a wonderful weekend.